Greetings, my dearest beloved friends. This is part 6 of the three rings of magic. It's crucially important for us to understand that the second ring of magic, let alone the third one, is not possible at all if we are still involved in dependent or codependent relationships of any kind. With family members, friends, even spiritual teachers, and some people maintain those kinds of relationships with also non-physical beings. For example, people who worship invisible gods in all kinds of religions and the like. People that live in emotional or financial dependence on other people often contact us with questions about manifestation techniques that they can use to manifest abundance and life of their dreams. And in the process of conversation with them, we find out that they maintain some sort of unequal relationships or they worship some higher powers. And we must tell them the truth. No manifestation principles or techniques, basically, the entire second ring of magic will not work for them. For one simple reason. For one simple reason, they can't manifest anything for themselves because they don't live for themselves. Clear enough. When we are spiritually, emotionally, physically, financially dependent on someone else, it really doesn't matter in this case if some of them are dependent on us. Now we're talking about us, not them. If someone happens to feel dependent on us, we really can't control it. Others can experience all kinds of feelings towards us, which we may not even suspect. We are surrounded by various kinds of people in our immediate environment. And if we are totally independent, and for example, someone feels emotionally dependent on us, and we can do nothing about it. If you're independent of others, of course, you can't feel mutually dependent on them. So it can be codependence by default. Or if you are independent, you can't support other people's dependence on you. Except your underage children, of course, if you have them, or some other family members that are legally your dependents. We'll skip those cases for today's discussion. Our primary attention is identifying areas in our lives where our dependence on others is essentially different from established legal parameters. For example, someone refuses to take full responsibility for their own financial support and looks for other people as their personal financial resources. It doesn't matter if they're members of the same family. If someone is an adult, he or she is self-responsible, even if someone is a housewife. There are clear parameters, clear agreements, so that it's crystal clear for all parties involved what kind of exchange is involved and what terms and conditions are. Then it's not dependence, it's equal exchange. Dependency is expectation to get something for nothing or making our well-being dependent on someone else's personal resources, emotional, intellectual, financial, etc. Like, for example, some people don't want to think for themselves by themselves. They always look for so-called spiritual guidance from the spirit realms, or from those whom they consider as their higher spiritual authorities. Instead of evaluating their situation with no external input and making their own independent decisions, which is a sign of true spiritual maturity, complete, radical self-trust, and independent decision-making without fear of mistake, just because mistake is impossible. According to Almin, your every action is inevitably a right action. If we try to second guess ourselves, then we are not yet within the second ring of magic, of course. Although we can get there in a twinkle of an eye. Whenever we make a radical decision to exit all dependencies and become completely independent, self-sufficient being. When you accept your being as your only sustenance, people, places, connections, resources will always be appearing, disappearing, reappearing, or rearranging whenever it's necessary, depending only on your personal ongoing plans, purposes, and pursuits. Whenever you change your plans, purposes, and pursuits, your environment always changes accordingly. You don't worry about people, you don't worry about environment. Everything around you will always be structured in accordance with your ongoing plans, purposes, and pursuits. So why is the second ring of magic, which is ring of manifestation, impossible if you still live independent relationships, dependence-based relationships? Sometimes people clearly see that the relationships that they try to hold on to are clearly pointless and destructive, but they still want to keep them. They can keep them, but they must understand that they will not be able to transition to the second ring of magic. They will not be able to manifest anything in their lives, whatever fancy and extremely advanced manifestation tools and techniques they try to use. They will not help because in order to be able to manifest things, you must have power to manifest. And if you didn't exit dependent relationships, you don't have power because you give it away to the ones you're dependent on. They have power over your life as long as they keep you dependent on them. If you are emotionally, physically, or financially dependent on someone else, then you are just a biological tool of this someone else. And they use you for their own manifestations. And your ability to feel your own self and your own desires is completely blocked in this situation. For example, this happens if you still just want to be supportive and to make someone else happy. I heard people saying, but if I get what I want, there are some people in my life that will not like it. They will not be happy about it. And they will unfriend me. And this is great because you don't need people in your life that block your personal well-being. I would personally prefer such people to not just go away from me, but to run away from me with the speed of light. And I will forget about them in a nanosecond. If you want to make someone else happy, it's a clear sign dependent relationships. In our healthy, independent state of being, we understand that everyone is responsible for their own happiness and well-being, as well as you're responsible only for yourself and for your own well-being. And if we network or cooperate with others, it's not for making them happy. It's for realization of your own plans, purposes, and pursuits. And other people happen to be involved in this process. As we already said and repeated millions of times, and this is the golden truth that is worth of millions of repetitions. Always put yourself first. This is number one. Then, also number one, you are your own source of your own well-being. Then, also number one, your only task is realizing your own personal plans, purposes, and pursuits. And in order to realize your own plans, purposes, and pursuits, logically, we should know what your plans, purposes, and pursuits are. What do you want? And please stop this nonsense. Oh, well, I don't know whether it's my will or God's will or infinite's will. There is no external God. There is no external infinite. There is no power higher than you. So many people are still under the influence of their religious upbringing that they feel ashamed of their own desires just because they're contrary to the rules and moral standards of their so-called gods or religious leaders. And those programs can be very deeply installed into people's subconscious minds. What if I violate some higher law? The truth is that there is no spiritual law higher than you. You are your own law. You're the lawgiver, and you're your own personal truth creator. A master doesn't seek the truth. A master creates it moment by moment, according to Almin. Also, there are some rigorous moral standards cultivated by societies. For example, if some of us come from rigorous Puritan, Victorian, or Russian Orthodox background, it can be an issue because in all those backgrounds, there are some things that are considered inappropriate or sinful. And what if you actually desire them? Oh no, you don't have right to desire them. It's sinful, it's shameful. God will punish you. And here's the book of rules and commandments that tells you what you can desire and what you can't desire. And people who still live by those books try to learn how to manifest their own realities. Nonsense. They can't. Because in order to be able to operate in the realm of the second ring of magic and to manifest, you must live a life of your own, of your own, and you should be your own possession. The key foundational question is who owns your life? If you're emotionally dependent on someone else, you're not in charge of your life. You're in charge of your emotions. Someone else controls your emotions, correct? Correct. You can't own your life partially. Well, they control only my emotions, but I control my mind, my finances, etc. No. Whether you own yourself fully, completely, 100%, or you're owned fully, completely, 100%. And you lose your birthright, your privilege by birth to create your own life and to manifest the reality that you want to manifest for yourself and to operate the second ring of magic. Is there any intelligent reason to remain a slave of someone else instead of living wholesome living and enjoying freedom of being yourself? This is what we call happy and fulfilled life, which everybody say that this is exactly what they want. Perhaps some people just don't fully realize that this life is impossible within dependence-based relationships. What is the most effective way to find ourselves? Almin recommends the greatest and the most powerful method, not doing technique. Technique of not doing. She suggests spending preferably from 3 to 5 days in complete silence and solitude. No mass media, no writing, no spiritual practices, no reading, just doing nothing except reconnecting with ourselves. No meditation, no yoga. Just spend your time in your most comfortable position, in your most comfortable place, perhaps at your home. It may be very discomfortable in the first few hours. We always want to get busy with something. We got used to being hyperactive. And hyperactivity is the greatest blockage that prevents access of our surface mind to the infinite depths of our true selves. Not doing technique is different from brainstorming. It's not time to do brainstorming. Yes, Almin sometimes recommends brainstorming for some people, but only for exceptional cases. Brainstorming is not a general technique for general public. Brainstorming keeps mind busy and noisy. The purpose of not doing is to actually silence our mind's habitual chaos and to get it reconnected with the inner space of our true selves. Although we ask questions, but without emotional attachment to outcome, we allow ourselves to not know how, in what form, and when the answers will reveal themselves. It's very important to keep ourselves away from specific outcomes and expectations. Not doing is absolutely the right time and space to ask ourselves a question. For example, what do I really want? Sometimes we need some time to find it. We got so lost within other people's projections and desires. Sometimes we need time to find what we really want, what our true desires are. Because, well, we already done our first step, I suppose. We got rid of all dependence-based attachments and relationships. Only then we are ready for our step two, for the not doing technique. And now we're in complete silence and solitude, preferably for a few days, 3 to 5 days, or at least for one day, or at the very least for just a couple of hours. Just 1 hour may work. It's better than nothing at all. And if we are not enough, and if it's not enough time for you to receive all your answers, you can repeat it again during your next opportunity. For example, during your lunch break, before falling asleep, or first thing after you wake up after sleep. If you need some time to get reconnected to yourself, your true heart desires. And your true heart desires can be felt only if other people are not involved in your mind and emotions. May I repeat it again? It's very important. Your true heart desires can be felt only if other people are not involved in your mind and emotions. It's not like I want to be with this person. This is not your true heart desire because other person is involved. Uh, I want to increase my personal financial abundance. This may be your true heart desire because it's about your own personal well-being. It's about you. I want to start a new business. I want to learn new skills. I want to explore more of my infinite potential. I want to improve my mental focus and concentration. I want to explore more advanced business opportunities. I want this job and I will go there and get it. This would sound like your true heart desires because they're about you and about you only. It's very important. They should be about you and about you only. It has to be about you. It has to be all about you. According to Almin, evolution of life is not possible without individualized self-expression. You are unique individualization with your own unique desires, goals, plans, purposes, and pursuits. There is no one else like you. Your life is only about you only. Forget about religious and Puritan garbage that judges selfishness. Some people were brought up to put others first and themselves last. And this kind of upbringing produces degradation and destruction of life. A true mastery is selfishness. Selfishness is a norm. Without selfishness, it's impossible to love yourself and to live for yourself only. And without loving yourself and living for yourself only, it's impossible to enter the second ring of magic. It's a ring of manifestation. Now you have power to manifest because you got it back. Don't worry about others. If you fully live for yourself and yourself only, you operate as a proxy for all life. And if you make yourself well, then all life will be well also. If you want to see all life uplifted, uplift yourself. Talk to you soon.